Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Manitowoc Garage. This week we're going to talk about the suspension activation and how to properly utilize the circuit on the 9165. First and foremost, when operating the ride height or suspension option on the 9165, you must be in the proper rigging code. The rigging codes, we have 4 available. They are 9814, 9014, which would be over the rear, with or without counterweight, and this is stationary tires. We can see this on the RCL. 14, of course, is full counterweight package at 180 plus or minus 2 degrees. The other ones we'll walk through here. 9016, of course, now represented as over the front plus or minus 2 degrees with full counterweight package, and 9816, which is also over the front plus or minus 2 degrees with no counterweight available. Failure to have the crane in one of these 4 rigging codes will create issues on the suspension screen and not allow you to operate. For training purposes, we will intentionally pick a rigging code that is not available to operate the suspension screen. You can now see on the operating display, and we'll back up for training purposes to the home screen. The suspension icon is symbolized as the truck raising and lowering. By selecting that, it takes us into our suspension screen. On the left-hand side, you have the control arrows of up and down. This symbol is currently representing that we are not at ride height. This symbol represents the axle oscillation circuit and whether it is locked or unlocked. If we would try to command the suspension as of right now, we're getting 2 warnings flashing at us on the bottom. Those 2 warnings, as I zoom in here, we can see the symbol on the left flashing. We are saying that we are in an improper rigging mode, and slew representation symbol means that we do not allow a slew rigging code to be operational while working in suspension. I'll go back to the RCL now and select a proper rigging code of 9016, which is over the front plus or minus 2 degrees with full counterweight. We can now see that our symbol has changed from red to green, symbolizing that we are at ride height within the 10% difference of left and right side suspension control. Each sensor needs to be within 10% of 50, so we could have a possible 40 and 60 and still be somewhat within the tolerance. Note, it's essential whenever leveling the crane that you must be on a level surface. If the crane itself is on an unlevel surface, one suspension cylinder will not raise to an adequate percentage for the system to then release and be at ride height. Note, We never lock the drive capabilities out for ride height, and we do use all 3 suspension positions. I will show now that the RCL has been properly configured, that we have control of the suspension. The first condition you will see is when transporting the machine, you should lower the machine completely to 0. This feature has been added to the crane for height of loads and easier transportation. By selecting the down arrow, we will see and hear the suspension drop. Notice when we fall out of tolerance, our not at ride height symbol becomes red and active. The crane now can be loaded on a truck and moved to the next job site. When the crane arrives at the job site, it can be removed from the truck, and it is self-erecting. One notable thing is during self-erection there is a specific rigging code that allows the machine to install the boxes. This is an on-rubber code with no counterweight, and to properly run this code the suspension must be at completely raised. This adds stability and stiffness to the rear oscillation and suspension circuit. Now to illustrate the complete raising, you simply hit and hold the up arrow. You can see the sensors begin to climb and hear the hydraulics kicking in. Once at 100%, it is now safe to configure the crane in the RCL mode that would allow you to self-erect the boxes and install them on the machines. Once the crane is completely rigged for transportation to the location of the pick, once again we would go back into the activation of suspension and we would lower this until ride height is reached. We can see that both sensors are within the tolerance, and the ride height suspension symbol has now shown green, and we are good. This top symbol has nothing to do with the suspension. This is the axle oscillation circuit, and being that we're over the front at 0 degrees, the axles are not locked left to right. It is free floating as a typical RT built by Grove or Manitowoc. As you go beyond the 3-degree tolerance left of or right of center, this symbol will then change on the home screen to a lock, representing that the rear suspension and axle oscillation circuit is then rigid. On the home screen, the axle oscillation circuit is shown here.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode of Manitowoc Garage, and as always, tune back in for new episodes on the website.